Karamoja and 93.0 Voice of Mundbujo. Now you're covered in your local language. UBC Radios, inspiring Uganda. It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody should. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customer senior system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. Welcome to Ground Zero Season 2, a show that brings you in-depth discussion ranging from politics, health, finance, sports, and so much more. Ground Zero Season 2.
UBC Radios, we are live on 5 radio stations that cover this program live. We are talking about all parts of this country, and you are most welcome to UBC Ground Zero program on UBC Radios. Ampaire Amon of Buteega is my name, and it's a very big privilege and honor for me to be united with you this morning until we are going to be in the afternoon of this very important day. And I'm so much glad that I've been joined by a very special team of guests who are going to be leading us in today's education and inspiration. We're on 5 radio stations that cover this program, UBC Radios. In Kampala, you can get us on 98.0 FM, that is on UBC Radio, 97.4 FM, that is in Arua, 99.4 FM, that is in Lira. We're also live and clear on UBC Butebo Radio, a popular radio station there in eastern Uganda. You can get us on 96.9 FM in case you're in Mbale. Soroti, we are 98.4 FM, and we're also live and clear on Magic 100 FM, that is based in Kampala and covers all central parts of this country. But also live and clear on another popular radio station, that is West Nile Radio, which is in the heart of Arua City, which you can get us on 98.0 FM, covering West Nile, Lango, Achori, Karamoja, and Teso sub-regions. You can as well get us on YouTube. We are just streaming live on YouTube. Live, you just put UBC Ground Zero and you'll be part of the conversation. We're also live and clear on Voice of Mundbujo that covers all western parts of this country. Joining me this morning on this edition of UBC Ground Zero is a very special team of guests that include someone who has not been with us for some good time but is joining us, and we are also joined by someone special when it comes to this very important topic. The topic we're talking about is the environmental restoration, the case for protecting Uganda's natural ecosystems. You must have heard and seen where most of places have been visited by NEMA and other responsible agencies of government to make sure that we restore Uganda's natural ecosystem. We are going to learn so much from Francis Sabino Ogwal, who is the Commissioner Environment Planning and Coordination, coming from NEMA. Let's start from there. Good morning, sir, and welcome. Maybe we can start from there for those who have had NEMA for the very first time. What is it about? And we're going to zero it down to your office. And what have you been doing recently? As we're going to get also Jibril Semakura Owomugisha, who is the Uganda's permanent representative to UNEPA on the UN Decade on the Ecosystems. And we also have Council Samuel Yetre, is the advocate at Yetre and the company advocates, and our own Ojabili Augustine, Secretary EC Forum for Democratic Change, joining us all this morning. Let me start with you, Commissioner. A very good morning and welcome.
Morning. Thank you. Yeah, you already introduced me. I'm called Francis Sabino Ogwal. I work in NEMA. I think let me first begin to try to give a background, to try to put everything in context, so that when we are discussing this topic, we try to look at a number of things. One is that I would like to first define what environment is. Two, what is ecosystem? And connected to that is the ecosystem service, and why it is very important for us to really think about protecting the environment and the ecosystem that we live in. But also, I'll be touching on the responsibilities of the citizen, because people are always saying that NEMA, things are going wrong, you're not doing anything. Whom should we be blaming, actually? We also look at the part of the role of district, local governments, and other lead agencies on environment management, and also what NEMA's mandate is. So to start with, when we are talking about the environment, we are talking about the biological factors, that is things like plants and animals, but also we are talking about the physical factors, the soils, the non-living part of the environment, and then the social factors, that is the human being part of it. So those three factors constitute for us what we are calling the environment. Now, today we are talking about ecosystem, restoring the environment, natural ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? Ecosystem basically is the living component of the environment, those biological factors I was telling you about, and the non-living part interacting to function as a system. And that is why we call it ecosystem. Now, if something is a system, it means all those components that constitute that system have to be functional. You cannot have part of it destroyed and you expect it still to function well. You cannot degrade or otherwise reclaim a wetland, channel out the water, and you expect the wetland to still function as a wetland. You cannot cut down trees and you expect the forest to still function as a forest. It's like if you have a problem with any part of your body, it could be your finger, which is injured, or your feet. Much as you have this big body of yours, but even just a pain on your finger or feet will make you feel uncomfortable, meaning your body is not going to function well, because even your body functions as an ecosystem. Now, then what comes to mind is what comes from an ecosystem. Ecosystem gives us what you call ecosystem services. The things you get from nature for which makes us live on this planet. Things like water, things like clean air, things like food, medicine, everything. So God put all those things there, put the ecosystem and the services it gives us, and then created human being last. Meaning, if this ecosystem or the environment is not functioning and giving us those services, we cannot survive on this planet. So when we are talking about protecting the environment, it's not just for the sake of the environment. It is for the well-being of the humanity, is for sustaining humanity on this planet. If those services are not there, definitely will not be here. And something about the role of the citizen. And I'll just read Article 17 for you. Article 17 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Article 17, 1J. It says, it is the duty of every citizen of Uganda to create and protect a clean and healthy environment. It is a duty of every citizen of Uganda. So when we are beginning to talk about things going wrong and NEMA is doing nothing, government is doing nothing, the individual should be pointing at himself or herself as well. What have you done? And that constitutional provision then is given effect with the following sections in the National Environment Act, Cap 181. If you look at section 3, subsection 2, it says every person has a duty to create, maintain, and enhance the environment, including the duty to prevent pollution. Every person has that duty to create, maintain, and enhance the environment, including the duty to prevent pollution.
Okay.
That is something we should know.
All right.
The
We
role
shall
that we are
come back
supposed to
to
do. If you are
that,
not
sir.
doing that, and you are only focusing on destroying the environment, you should be the last person to say NEMA or whoever is not doing that work, because you have not done your part. The other is the right. Article 39 of the Constitution says we all have that right to a clean and healthy environment. If you are going to have a right to a clean and healthy, productive environment, you have a duty. And those duties is what I have just pointed out. So having said that, what is the role of NEMA? NEMA, by the National Environment Act, Cap 181, is mandated to regulate, coordinate, monitor, supervise all activities in the field of the environment. And I want people to pay attention to that. Regulate, coordinate, monitor, supervise all activities in the field of environment, meaning the day-to-day management of the environment is decentralized function. And that is provided for in Section 11 of the National Environment Act, Cap 181. And I just want to read it for you, then I end there, my colleagues can come in. Section 11 of the National Environment Act, 11(1)(a) says, a lead agency is a government department. It can be a ministry, it can be a local district, local government, it can be urban authorities, all those. A lead agency shall, and is not may, a lead agency shall plan, regulate, and manage the segment of the environment within its mandate. A district local government has wetlands there, it has forests there. Uganda Wildlife Authority manages for us the wildlife protected areas. So when things are going wrong, let's look at collectively what is not happening where it should happen. So for now, I will end there. I thought I should give that background about what the environment is, what NEMA does, what the individual should do, and what the other agencies of government should do when it comes to managing the environment.
Thank you so very much, Commissioner. Allow me come to you, Jibril. Dr. Jibril, you have been so much exposed. You're a permanent representative of the UN and UNEPA. I've seen you into the campaigns of restoring nature, protecting the environment. What does this mean to us when we talk about restoring Uganda's ecosystem or natural ecosystem?
Well, good morning, listeners. Thank you very much for giving us your time to learn and appreciate whatever is being done in line with the ecosystem restoration. In the year 1908, elite Churchill Winston named Uganda the Pearl of Africa. And that was because Uganda was uniquely established, or Uganda was uniquely created compared to other areas or to other parts of the globe. Uganda, as far as forests are concerned, we had our forests, we still have. We had our wetlands, rivers, and lakes, which all together would help to stabilize our climate change. But simply because of our bad behaviors as communities, or because of our neglecting these ecosystems, not actively taking part into restoration and protection, that's why we are losing the beauty of our country. For example, I take the opportunity to thank all our partners who are into running out of trees campaign that is under the Ministry of Water and Environment, where multiple stakeholders have joined hands to contribute their efforts through tree planting to see that Uganda's forest cover can increase back to 24% that we had lost in 1990. Apparently, Uganda's forest cover is at 14%, having increased from the 8.9% of 2007. However, this is not enough, and it still demands, or it still requires our commitment as communities or the public. Still, our wetlands, we have about 33 76 square kilometers, that is about 13.9% countrywide coverage of wetlands. However, still because of the bad habits from the communities, we are experiencing a decline in our wetland coverage, simply because of external pressures from the communities in terms of agriculture, infrastructure developments, and other activities. When you talk about wildlife, Uganda, at least we have a variety of various species as far as wildlife is concerned. That these now generate a lot of income to the country. Therefore, the country is benefiting, and at the same time, we, the local communities, we are also benefiting. We are experiencing some sort of abnormal changes in the climate. In the climate, for example, today we are experiencing a lot of droughts, which we didn't expect before, which we didn't experience before as much as it is right now. But I have seen people in areas of Kazo, Uganda, Chiruhura, in the cattle corridors, the plants are drying, the coffee is drying, simply because of too much heat. This is expected because we are doing harm, like we are adding less as far as environmental protection is concerned. When you walk around our river, Ampaire, coming from the ends of Fort Potro through Uganda, the waters of this river, the pressure has decreased. Why? People have actively planted a lot of eucalyptus in the riverbanks of these water sources, which automatically reduces the amount of waters that can be again keeping these rivers active the way they are before. Where is the challenge, or where should our worry be? How best can we prepare the communities to coexist with nature? If it is wetland protection, the Commissioner Nema is here. He is going to tell us how communities are being prepared to coexist with swamps and wetlands. We have been in Erigon ends sensitizing communities. Before we wait for floods, for landslides, the rains of December, rains of November, October, people are being sensitized on how to utilize the hill slopes of Mount Erigons, so that they can protect them, at the same time have the activities ongoing. For example, we have introduced bamboo tree growing in these hills to keep the soils intact and firm, so that when rainy season comes in, at least we don't experience a lot of landslides. Additionally, We are at the Ministry of Water and Environment. We have a program on agriculture, and specifically with some investors. We are going to have a solar-powered irrigation farming, mainly to establish agroforestry investments. If this project comes to your area, please welcome it. The ministry is doing country-wide launch of irrigation programs, establishing water sources. If you are called upon as communities to actively participate, kindly join the campaign, be part of the good programs that will help all of us to have our efforts attributed towards ecosystem restoration. We have been encouraging people, those who own land privately, can you do some sort of agroforestry? We have trees that can coexist with plants. We have trees like Coriandra insulata. This is so good for cattle keepers. It is so good for beekeepers because of a lot of flowers, and it is fast growing. Can you intercrop this tree with your crops so that it can serve as nitrogen fixers? At the same time, it can serve as wind breakers.
Okay.
So all of these programs aims at sensitizing communities, them learning the value and the purpose of environmental protection so that they can actively be part of our agenda of recovering the Uganda's beauty. Thank you very much.
Interesting. Thank you so very much, Dr. Jibril. I come to you, Yetri, and you've been so much also vocal when it comes to environmental protection. This is the country that we all have, but also I understand that anything to do with the environment does not only affect the people of Uganda, but also those who are elsewhere, including those in Europe and America. That's why we say we live in a global village. What is your take in as far as restoring the Uganda's natural ecosystem?
Thank you so much, Amon. I want to thank you for you and the management of UBC Radio for the opportunity to have me here this morning. My name is Samuel Yotre. Good morning to all our listeners. Amon, the commissioner here has very ably, from a lawyerly perspective, given us the constitutional and statutory regulatory framework.
Maybe he's also a lawyer and a counselor like you.
Yes, he should be, because he really laid it out very, very, very elaborately. And I agree with him that we have, by way of the necessary legal regulatory requirements, we have enough in place to guarantee sustained conservation of our environment. In all aspects, he has described the various aspects to the topic. That today we are dealing with ecosystems, but it's a larger discussion. There could be one where you're dealing with the air. We can deal with the sound, for example, various aspects to it. But the legal regulatory framework that we have in place guarantees the protection of the environment as a whole. And we have a constitutional duty. Each citizen has a constitutional duty to ensure that we conserve the environment such that as a whole we have a healthy environment. It's a constitutional right of every Ugandan to have a healthy environment. And each of us, before we blame NEMA, before we blame the Ministry of Water and many of these stakeholder regulatory institutions, we as citizens, as individuals have a role to play in environmental conservation. My brother has talked about the fact that there is increasing encroachment on wetlands. I think that the larger contribution to this really has been the explosion in our population. We are not, by around the year 2000, when we had the 2002, when we had the continental meeting of all ministers here on environment in Uganda, here in Kampala, the population of Uganda, I think, was around about 25 million people also. We have since doubled over the past 20 years. Our population has doubled by that size, running towards about 50 million people now. And every time we have, and it's a positive thing, because now, when population grows, it means that government has the right public health policies and facilities in place. It means that the child mortality rate is going down. It means life expectancy is going up. For us, in the legal fraternity, those days when you clocked 50 years, for purposes of a decision whether or not you should be granted bail in the courts of law, the court would consider that if you are 50 years, that was classified as advanced age. But authorities of various courts have now moved it to about 60 years as being a qualification for advanced age requirement for bail purposes. It means that people now are living longer. And the effect of all of that, good public health facilities, child mortality rate going down, life expectancy going up, life conditions and standards of living improving, means that now people are living longer. That means population will continue to grow, and it's not about to go down. And this has an effect on the pressures we have on the resource, on the resource of land, which ideally means the wetlands and the forest recover. So we expect that except something radical is done, we're going to have an increasing encroachment on these facilities. I think what we need to do more, and this is not really to pressure many of these regulatory authorities like NEMA, like national forest authorities, and even the Ministry of Water and Environment. There is so little they can do if the human pressures cannot be contained. I think we need to focus more on practical solutions like alternative energy sources. My brother has talked about encroachment on forest cover. For as long as we're not exploiting the full potential of our renewable energy sources, like we have electricity, like we have solar, like we have biomass, as long as we're not exploiting these energy sources fully, trees will continue to be cut, and charcoal will continue to be the dominant energy source that is being used. In many of the homes in Uganda, every time you're on the road, especially when you're traveling these long distances, you pass by trucks and trucks of charcoal loaded to the brim. Now, every time you see these loads and loads of charcoal, you must be cautious that the forest recovery is being reduced, and our rainfall measures are going to be affected. We will continue to have droughts, and when you have these droughts, you have famine, because we will not be able to sustain agriculture, and we're an agricultural country. So we need to look at this in a solution-oriented manner. There is nothing we can possibly do to pressure NEMA into being effective, or to pressure any of these ministry institutions into being effective. We must focus on the practical solutions, like making sure that electricity is available, and making sure it is available cheaply. We have been complaining. Last year, the government failed to renew the mandate of the concession of Umeme, moving Umeme's responsibilities to UEDCL. Now, government must look for ways of adequately financing. It's very, very difficult. I know our past is limited, but finance.
Was that a very good strategy for a country to maximize profits, especially to give some to the people of Uganda?
Yes, it was a good decision, because when you look at the grid which had been put in place by Umeme, it was mostly urban centered. Umeme is a private company, and they had to do business. They were not moving. Yes, they were not moving to the rural areas as they ought to have. In fact, you remember that when it came to pulling electricity into areas of West Nile, they had to incorporate a new company, when RECO, which was doing rural electrification in West Nile and related areas. So Umeme was mostly urban centered. They were very business oriented and concentrating in the urban centers. They are not moving in the villages. But the government now has become very deliberate with the rural electrification, and we pray that this is pushed on. The grid must extend to the farthest of places. In many of our rural areas, there is still the grid has not reached there. And the moment you find areas where electricity grid has not reached, just know that the alternative energy there is firewood for the most rural areas. For the semi-rural areas, it is charcoal. And that means that our forests will be encroached, which has devastating effects on climate.
If Ojabili, Council Oyetri, I'm looking at, you commented about the law, which also Commissioner Ogwal talked about. You also talked about the individual role in as far as protecting the environment. But going back to the law, does Uganda's law, looking at Uganda's environmental laws, do they really adequately protect our ecosystems, or do they need reforms?
No, they do. They do. We have, I think our environmental laws are very, very elaborate in each and every aspect of the need to protect our environment. Beyond ecosystems, we regulate everything. We regulate emissions. We engage companies. I think NEMA does that. Engage companies on how to curb some of these. Regulates them on how they should dispose of their industrial waste, including advising them to convert some of the industrial waste into other forms of energy. There are companies like Kakira, for example, that are converting biomass of bagasse into electricity, burn them, produce steam, and this steam turns turbines and they produce electricity. So there is enough in terms of our regulatory legal framework to ensure that.
So we are good to go when it comes to the law.
We are good to go when it comes to the law. In fact, the areas like sound, where NEMA even has in place sound regulations, where there are levels of sound which are supposed to be emitted in certain places. For churches, there are levels for industrial settings and factories, there are levels.
And many Ugandans are asking, when is that law going to be implemented? Because that has not done anything concerning what we are seeing within our communities.
The law is implemented. Actually, NEMA arrests, when you look at for some of these institutions, especially the churches, and this is the other unfortunate part, that NEMA, for purposes of sound emissions, they arrest pastors. They invade these places. First, there is a procedure. They serve a notice of improvement. They give a notice upon you that the noise levels that you are producing are beyond what is permissible, and they give you a period of time within which to make adjustments.
Okay.
If you did not, allow me to mention my brother Amon, that we feel last year we had a meeting with the Bishop Chiganda in Chisenyi, and we discussed that NEMA has been very discriminatory in the way in which they enforce some of these measures, like the noise pollution. It is only the churches and the pastors who are arrested and their machines confiscated. I have never seen, and I'm not trying to be discriminatory, mosques have speakers on the top of the mosques that call for worshippers to come. I have never seen a sheikh or a Muslim facility being invaded and a sheikh or Muslims being prosecuted. It is only the born agains that have usually been attacked under these noise pollutions, which is very unfair. Bars very hardly, very, very hardly. I have not had testimonies of it, at least.
Maybe for mosques, it is short term. It is just for about 5 minutes, and the noise is off. Actually, as far as compared to other churches, for mosques, it's just short term, 5 minutes. The prayers are off, and that's
to be the law, whether it is 1 minute or 1 second, as long as you are crossing the line.
Law is the law. And you see, when they give decibels, they would say, for example, for a church during daytime, it is about 40 decibels. And I believe for all religious or faith-based organizations, it should be uniform. So if a mosque exceeds that particular decibel limit, they should be confiscated. They should be invaded, similar way the churches are done.
Interesting. Thank you so very much, Councillor Yetre there. Ojibi, you represent a very big population when it comes to Uganda, especially those that come from the other side that they call opposition. And what is your take in as far as protecting our environment is concerned? And most importantly, does the opposition or you of this country believe is doing enough to protect Uganda's natural ecosystem?
Ladies and gentlemen, our dear listeners, good morning. This is Augustine Ojobile. You know, I will greet you in the local language, those who are in West Nile.
This is a national broadcaster. Even this program is in English, but you are permitted, sir.
But yes, the Michichi, our four. Azi emini ganga angwa mandiuzo zorese ala urfofe dulia marpi badu gozo azirike jole be gozo angwa marudrindi zo azirike adrenero Kampala ro alako farike o teregwa lindi ke o ruwindi angu kida amba banigeze za balekeza rude development arevose. For now, let me stop there. But literally what I said is that
I was going to request for that.
Our leaders in Western Nile should take interest in taking what we are discussing this side, because it does not only stop in Kampala, but we are also having the same challenges in the Western Nile, areas of Terego, areas of Arua. Many swamps are being encroached, and people think it is an affair of Kampala, but it is an affair of all other areas. Amon, to me, I have a different dimension. You see, there's a way our colleagues are being discussing these issues. It looks like it is normal. It is it's like a routine. Let's go and talk about it and just go away. Environment is basically human resource that we cannot pretend to love the environment more than the human beings. Today, we understand that the ecosystem, when people are talking about the eco, they forget that humanity is also part of the eco. That if you want to protect the environment, begin with the human resource. We cannot go out there, pretend to chase people away from the wetlands, while others are left to consume the environment at the wetland. Amon, I will give you examples. In 2007, you are aware that about 25% of Mabira forest was being given out to Skoll, that is a company making sugar around Lugazi there. 25% of the land of Mabira forest was being given to Skoll.
To restore the forests,
not
or
to restore,
do some other
but
activities?
to cut away the forest and plant sugar cane. Then in turn, you get sugar. So the question is, who is that person who is so much in love with the environment, but in turn promotes destruction of the same forest? My colleague here talked of reduction.
Those are serious allegations, sir.
Yes,
Is it true that they gave out that
yes,
Mabila forest? 25% is a lot of land.
Yes, it was sanctioned by the state. It was a demonstration that seemingly it looked like it stopped it, but if you went today in Mavira forest, the trees are not there. Those days when you pass there as you're going to Jinja or coming from Jinja, it was total darkness in Mavira forest. Today, you even see the last tree on the sides. You see the last tree. So where have the trees gone? It means we still have about 30,000 square miles on paper, which is about 300 kilometers, I think, of Mavira forest. But in reality, it's not there. And for those who use that route, you can bear me witness that we are speaking about something on paper. They will tell it is about 30,000 but when it comes in real terms, it's not there. So that was something sanctioned by this very regime. So for me, I'm looking at my commissioner here, and he is overburdened by this. For him, he will come and tell you, this is what we are supposed to do. You see, you're not. It is here. Let's look at this clearance at the wetland here in Wakiso. A petrol station was left there, but people who had homes, they had stayed there for over 30 years, were evicted. So, who is doing destruction? Is it someone who has built a small house and is staying there? Or someone even who decided to bring a fuel station and parade it in a wetland? So these are things we really need to look at. So that's why I'm telling you that we cannot pretend to love the environment when we hate the human resource. I think the commissioner and his team have a big responsibility of, first of all, taking people into classes to understand the environment. Let us introduce the topics of environment from primary. Even when people are going for these PDM funds, let that be a topic. Let people know the value of an environment which is free from these encroachments. The moment we empower our communities, the moment we empower our people to understand the dangers of a bad environment, then encroachment will not even be talked about. Because I will not encroach. But the moment you handle me and you leave Ayotre, another person will come and say, but why was Ayotre left there? Of recent, I was in Chirindi. It's a landing site. I saw buildings just at the shore of the mountain, raising, being at the shore of Lake Victoria. Just a few meters, like 2 meters away from the shore. So who sanctions that? Yet I am sure that inspections are made every other time. The army have all the rights and the powers to impound people who are going to the water to look for a living. But they cannot block a building that is coming up at the shore of Lake Victoria. I'm speaking with the specifics because if the commissioner would want to go and see for himself, you go and see it. It is there. Chiindi learning site. That is in Wikwe district. You will find that happening. But the army is banning people's fishing nets, banning people's boats, but it cannot deal with this. Yet in a few moments you will hear that a building has collapsed because of the pressure coming from the water. So, Mr. Amon and our dear...
What are your prayers?
Mr. Amon and...
Commissioner to really
Amon and our dear listeners, my concern is about the human resource. That the commissioner, even if you implemented the law 1,000 times, the law will never work. As long as it is working selectively and it is working on ignorant individuals. Let people get that knowledge from primary. Don't even wait until they reach the university. Then you go and study the forestry. What? You see, our deforestation. My colleague here was trying to give us an analysis that, you see, we have now the cutting of trees has gone down and all that. We are now having... We are still below. By around 1990, we had about 24% of this country.
Now we have 14.
No, it is not 14. It is 11.6. We can say 12. So it means we are still below. So it is half what we had. So we cannot praise ourselves. Yes, we can say maybe it has reduced. The deforestation levels have gone down, but they are still so high. In terms that we are not having we are not yet even up to where we were before we can praise ourselves. This issue.
In
No,
Commissioner
let me just
Ogwal to
conclude
address some
this.
of those concerns.
I would be so unfair
Gabriel will come in later.
I would be so unfair to my party if I don't talk about this. In 2017, FDC introduced a program which we would do using flowers at various sites. Whenever we go to grieve with families, we don't use flowers. Since 2017, we said you go with the fruit trees. Let us cherish and celebrate this person by planting a fruit tree. If you can plant one, it is okay, but we want our people to plant more than one. So that 10 years, 20 years, you say, we planted this tree here, it is bearing fruits of Ojobile Augustine. So when you come to my place, in case I am dead, you don't bring your flowers. It means I have really benefited the community at one point. So let them eat from my sweat through a fruit tree, because they must sit under that shade in case it is another person who comes after me. 10 years, 20 years after me, there will be a shade for those people to sit under as they grieve or as they celebrate the different occasions that usually take place. So FDC introduced that, and I'm glad many people took that. Many organizations, many companies started around 2020. It was now a norm. Everywhere, people were doing the same. So I want to thank FDC for that idea. Until today, we don't carry those flowers. We grieve using fruit trees.
A good initiative there, looking at the numbers of deaths that we have every day. If we are to adopt the same strategy, how many fruit trees would we have as a country in 10 or 5 years to come? How I wish all the other stakeholders take up such initiatives and we protect our environment. Commissioner Ogwal will come in and to address some of those concerns, and also we are looking at how NEMA is working with the local government to restore the degraded ecosystems, and Dr. Jibril there will come in.
Okay, thank you, moderator. I think a number of issues have been raised. I'll try to make clarification on some of them. First, the issue of Mabira, and that 25% was apparently maybe given to Skoll.
An investor.
Yeah. I can tell you the truth about that. What there was a proposal for that, part of that forest to be given for that purpose, for growing of sugar cane. But after looking at the purpose for which Mabira forest exists, and well aware that it is a natural forest. By the way, if you are going to degazette any part of a forest, the law requires that you actually get another place which is equivalent to that one or even better. So where you would get another Mabira somewhere. The best was to protect that which exists. So that request was not given. Now, what I want to also clarify is that when you see Mabira, even if you use satellite images and so forth, Mabira has got enclaves. So sometimes you are looking at an enclave where people have settled and you are thinking it is part of Mabira. Mabira is not just a very one clear square place or so forth. It has enclaves. So some of it can confuse you. You might think that is part of Mabira. People have settled there. So Mabira as a forest is still there. And it is recovering. What actually perhaps impacted Mabira most were these mulberry trees. You know, those pepper. So those trees are very invasive. Where you have element of tree cover loss happening, they come and then they invade the place. But as they get phased out, we are beginning to see the natural forest coming back. So today there are no human settlements in that forest as we talk. I know my brother has raised the question of maybe there's still a lot of destruction going on. Even how far are we going to go with this? We need to have hope. We need to have hope. A journey of 1,000 miles, 1,000,000 miles, begins with one. What we have done as human beings globally, Uganda here, is that human beings have been so reckless on the environment, and this is where we are talking about restoration now, that we are going to try to restore, to put nature back to what it was. So yes, there could have been some encroachment on that forest reserve, but a lot is being done to protect its integrity. Recently, you could have seen that government has already, would I say, elevated the conservation status of Bugoma Forest into a national park. And so that is the move which is going to happen for some of this effort to make sure that certain areas, once they become a national park like now Bugoma is, a national park has higher level of protection than a forest reserve, because a forest reserve sometimes you have element of community engagement. I was talking about involving communities. So there's collaborative forest management, which is done with the communities to make sure they benefit from the use of the existence of the forest, but that is not what happens with a national park.
Maybe some information.
Can I?
Is it okay?
I listened when you are talking. Let me build now, because you will interject and affect the flow of my responses. So what on the side of forest is happening? So we shouldn't lose hope that there is nothing that can happen on that front. Things will change. And because environment restoration does not happen in one day, doesn't happen in 2 days, in 1 year, whereas destruction can happen in just a matter of hours. But for you to see those things back, some of us may not even be here. Some of us may have gone already. But we need to make sure that we take that effort to do the restoration. Now, the human being, and I like his argument, we place the human being for sure when it comes to the question of the environment management, because all this protection of the environment we are talking about is for who? Is for the benefit of the human being. It is not for NEMA, it is not for government. If Uganda, for example, becomes so hot because of environmental destruction, all of us will not be able to live here. But you see, with the human beings, the population we are talking about, in 1911, Ugandans were about 2.5 million. Now moving forward, 2024, maybe even currently, we're about 46, 48. The space has remained the same. It's like this room where we are here, and you bring in 100 people now to sit here. Either we are going to just not even sit, we are going to stand, and eventually we shall get. So as the population has increased, reality has struck. There are certain areas that government must declare protected and no-go areas. If we are going to survive, for this environment to give us the ecosystem that it should provide, there are some places of the world, you go there and you find that people are really struggling. Let me give the last one.
Please,
here about noise. Noise, are we being discriminatory? The Christian faith versus the Muslim versus... Now, we are not discriminatory really in our enforcement. Even the issue of the churches, we have been trying to handle that very carefully. The Muslims, we have also told them to really scale down that time of, I think it comes around 5:30 or 6 and is off. But look at it this way. Somebody, you go home back home around 6 or 7, and you get somebody has started a church there from nowhere. And the noise is maximum up to the time where you can no longer, your body kind of just forces you to sleep. 8 hours, 10 hours of non-stop noise. How productive is somebody is going to be at place of work? So yes, we all have our rights.
Buzz?
We have struggled with the buzz. But one thing, and we have made effort there. We have been impounding a lot of the equipment. But one thing I have to tell you, because we're in a talk show like this, we give others a chance to talk. The responsibility of managing the noise, of controlling the noise, it's actually, I read for you section 11 of the National Environment, is the role of the urban authorities. Okay. So when you see NEMA coming in, it's because they have failed in their work. So this noise problem, we can actually stop. But first, people even around there, Amon, let them really make sure that once noise like that are coming to where they are settled, they should also bring this to the attention of that person, that they are going to really mobilize communities against that one to stop that noise. I did for where I stay. The person who was playing music, you go to when you are from church in the evenings, you find even the door frames, the window frames are, vibrating because of that noise.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Dr. Jibril, I come to you. You represent UN here when it comes to the ecosystem restoration. But talking about Uganda, where you're based, we seem to be lagging behind comparing ourselves in the region and also in the continent and other countries in general. One wonders where is the problem, or how does Uganda compare with African countries when it comes to implementing the ecosystem or restoration? As I will come to Jabili, looking at how some of the cases in environment take so long to be resolved, what should be the antidote to that? Dr. Jibril.
Well, allow me to first add my voice on issues of Mavira, that out of 300 square kilometers, at most 5% of this area have been degraded illegally due to community encroachment, illegal logging, and other activities. However, amidst challenges, we are coming up with solutions. That's why now we have the Department of Forestry Management at the Ministry of Water and Environment. And one of the mission for this department that have just newly been created, we are going to review all boundaries. We will open all boundaries of the forest reserves across the country. The intention is whoever illegally occupied any piece of that land that is meant to be a forest will automatically be vacated. That is one. And after vacating, restoration comes in. Additionally, other sister partners like the UPDF, where I am part of the team formulating the climate change and environment strategy for the UPDF. Here, we intended to come up with a directorate at the Ministry of Defense, specifically to deal as far as deployments in terms of environmental restoration, law enforcement, as far as environmental protection is concerned. And this will help the already existing forces by the Uganda police, the Uganda police environmental section, to enhance the issue of law enforcement and implementation as far as ecosystem restoration is concerned. Another issue I can talk about, we have seen, as a medical doctor, now let me talk about it. In medicine, we believe that infectious medicine, 98% bases on our relationship with the environment. That if we poorly manage the environment as communities, then we stand higher chances of suffering the so-called communicable diseases. That's why the government is using some good money to manage Ebola as an epidemic. But all these are environmental borne diseases. When the communities simply need a lot of sensitization and involvement to set up prophylaxis measures as far as these outbreaks are concerned. You have seen yellow fever coming in on board. But all these are due to our poor relationship with environmental management. When I come to issues of flooding around Kampala, apparently we are into droughts. But in the last months of February, March, at least even drizzling around Kampala would call for flooding. And this is all due to our poor behaviors. We have clogged the drainage channels with waste. And you find someone is openly dumping wastes in running waters of rain. You find someone is open dumping garbage outside outside of the vehicle when it is moving. So this is, you shouldn't be waiting for government to teach you about this. At least this is personal responsibility on proper waste management.
On climate finance to restore forests and wetlands that you're talking about?
Apparently, we are already prepared to receive funding as far as carbon credits are concerned. And the ministry is very, very careful to who to deal with as far as these investments are concerned. We have got multiple partners coming on board to enhance land restoration as far as forestry is concerned, to enhance the issue of carbon marketing and trading. So once there is a clear strategy being laid that will be helping the traders to come into climate finances, to have Uganda benefit directly from our already existing forests as far as revenue is concerned.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Oyetri, Councillor Oyetri, Dr. Jibril talks about environmental police, but also I had something to do with the environmental code. And also when we talk about those cases to do with the environment, people say that those cases take so long to be resolved. What should be the antidote or the solution to this?
Amon, I think it is true that many of these institutions, regulatory institutions, have certain powers to prosecute. NEMA, for example, they have in fact within their institution an environmental police. I see them usually patrol. They can arrest, compile a criminal file, and these individuals can end up in the courts of law. But I think the problem of the pace at which the cases move is a larger challenge of the judiciary, which is a case backlog. We have a very, very huge case backlog currently in Uganda. I think by 2025, last year, we had close to about 450,000 cases on the docket of the judiciary. Now, that's a very huge bulk, given the fact that our staffing of judicial authorities is still very small. In many of these districts, we have the courts very limited. We have, in fact, the plan was to have about at least a magistrate's court in every district, but there are districts where these courts are not even there. We have recently opened up regional Court of Appeal regional circuits, but these regional circuits, many of them are not holding. We have high court circuits which have been put in place, but these high court circuits are also not functional, because setting up one court circuit, for example, of the High Court, just one like this, you have to put their transcribers, you have to have new staffing. Now we have gone digital, you have to make sure that you have IT staff there. One court alone costs millions of money to put up. So the problem of how slow these environmental cases move and how the culprits can be brought to book also falls within the larger complications that judiciary is facing. For a long time, judiciary has been largely underfinanced, very, very largely. So until least recently, the last financial year, we had about 442 billions, which is still small, because initially we were almost, judiciary is a third arm of government, but we were treated as if we are just a small department in the Ministry of Finance, receiving very little sums of money for our activities. But now the money, the funds given to judiciary is bulging. The service terms of judicial officers is being improved, but we still need more to appoint. The lawyers in the office of the DPP who help in prosecuting some of these cases are also being admitted to prosecute in a very, very, very low pace. Last year, you can imagine, I sat in a bar bench meeting at Mukono High Court before Justice Stephen Mubiru, and we were discussing, the question was, why are these cases, criminal cases, being prosecuted? Why are they lagging forever? And we had office of the DPP representatives from Goma, from Nachifuma, and many parts of Mukono district, and they said we are understaffed. We are understaffed. In fact, when they declared their need for prosecutors, it was more than the national recruitment, because DPP had recruited last year around 29 prosecutors. This alone, according to the team in Mukono, was not even enough to meet their staffing needs as Mukono district. So there is that whole problem of how understaffed the DPP is, financing in the office, in the judiciary, very few judicial officers, court facilities are also not there. But there is a good hope now, Mr. Amon, we are improving. The courts are being digitalized. Now we have ECMIS, electronic court records, electronic payment of court filing fees, and e-payments, which have improved filing rates. And now there is a tool for writing of judgments, which judiciary is developing. Very soon we should be able to, generally our ability to dispose of cases, although this case backlog has increased, we hope that this one will go down, will be handled with time.
Thank you so very much, Councillor Yetre there. And now that we are entering into our second hour of this program, where we also engage our listener on the other side of radio to share their opinions, perspectives on what they think about our topic. But that would be after the break. And I will start with you, Ojobile. It seemed you had a very burning concern to put to a commissioner there. But let me first take a break, and when we return, we continue with our discussion. Our dear listener from the other side of radio, you can call and participate in this program, share your opinions on any question or concern that you wish my guests in the studios to address to on 0776 511 426. The number is 0776 511 426. You can call or send your messages there. After the break, we're going to consider all those perspectives or opinions shared, both in messages and picking your calls. Ground Zero takes a very short break, and we're coming back in just a bit. I pray you don't go away.
It's hot. This is Ground Zero Season 2. Stay tuned. We shall be right back. It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody showed. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customer tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
This is UBC Radio, the home of inspiration.
Independent sound.
UBC has 11 sister radio stations spread throughout the country to educate, inform, and entertain. Tune in to UBC Radio FM 98, your national radio station, Magic 100, where sports and music is our life. 87.5 Star FM in Uganda, 97.4 UBC West covering Western Uganda, 102 Mega FM in Gulu, 97 FM Butebo Radio in Eastern Uganda, 107.0 Buduri FM, 100.5 Nge FM in Kasese, 98.0 West Nile FM in Arua, Total Ray Radio FM 90 in Karamoja, and 93.0 Voice of Mundbujo. Now you covered in your local language. UBC Radios, inspiring Uganda.
Independent sound.
UBC has 11 sister radio stations spread throughout the country to educate, inform, and entertain. Tune in to UBC Radio FM 98, your national radio station, Magic 100, where sports and music is our life. 87.5 Star FM in Uganda, 97.4 UBC West covering Western Uganda, 102 Mega FM in Gulu, 97 FM Butebo Radio in Eastern Uganda, 107.0 Buduri FM, 100.5 Nge FM in Kasese, 98.0 West Nile FM in Arua, Total Ray Radio FM 90 in Karamoja, and 93.0 Voice of Mundbujo. Now you covered in your local language. UBC Radios, inspiring Uganda.
At UBC Radio, all our radio network across the country is committed to inform, entertain, educate, and guide for national transformation.
On radio, UBC should set its own example leka bano abatafa ku bantu baffe bagumaza ndowooza muganda kiyita okugumaza to divert people. Let our own UBC bring programs to educate the people so that abagala kugumaza babeereyo bagumaza naye naffe they can advise, guide. And people in time will judge the one who is their friend and who is just using them.
Tune into UBC Radios for credible socio-economic programs. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back. Ground Zero Season 2 continues.
A short break. This is UBC Radios, and we are live on 5 radio stations that cover this program live. We are on UBC Radio that covers all parts of this country on 98.0 FM. We are on UBC Western Nile Radio, that is in Alua City. We are on Voice of Bundubujo in Bundubujo there, covering western parts of this country. We are on UBC Butebo, covering eastern parts of Uganda. We are on Magic 100 FM and so many other radio stations that cover this program. We are also streaming live on YouTube. You just put UBC Ground Zero and be part of the discussion. It is the right time now. You send your messages or call on 776 511 426. I can see so many messages already coming in. Continue sending them and sharing. If there are concerns or questions that need one of all my guests to address, they will have time to address all of them. 776 511 426. And in our studios, we are talking about environmental restoration. We are looking at the case for protecting Uganda's natural ecosystem. We have a privilege to have Francis Sabino Ogwal is the Commissioner Environment Planning and Coordination coming from NEMA. We have Dr. Jibril Semakura Hawomugisha is the Uganda's permanent representative to UNEP and on UN Decade on Ecosystem. Council Samuel Oyetre is the advocate, is coming from Oyetre Advocate. And also we have Ojobili Augustine, Secretary C, coming from Forum for Democratic Change. And my name is Ampaire Amon Buteega. Let's go into some of the feedback or some of the concerns shared here on this platform from the other side of the radio, especially by those who are part of us. But you can as well share your comments on 776 511 426 call, and we're going to pick your calls. I am Emmanuel. I am listening in from Kampala. Thank you, Amon, for the program. My concern is that every year we hear about restoring wetlands, yet new buildings continue to appear in the protected areas. Is NEMA failing to enforce the law, or they are powerful people simply above the law? Thank you so very much for that, your perspectives. Thank you so very much. I am a candidate. Samuel. I am listening in from Entebbe. Government plants millions of trees every year, but many of them die because nobody follows up. Isn't restoration more than just planting trees? Okay, thank you, people of Entebbe there. Thank you, Amon, for the program. I am Babla. I'm listening in from Kono. How can local communities be expected to protect forests when many families depend on charcoal and firewood for survival? Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Amon, for the program and UBC. I am in Gulu City here. I want to thank you for the program, UBC. We are following. But my concern is why our environmental impact assessments are approved for projects later destroy rivers, wetlands, and forests. Who plans for this? Okay, people there in Gulu. I'm listening in from Moyo. Uganda signs many international environmental agreements, but people on the ground don't see much change. How do these global commitments benefit ordinary citizens? All right, let me get to know those who are online as well. You're live on UBC Radios.
Juma Buteega calling.
Thank you.
All the panelists. Hello?
You're live.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all the panels. I would like to put some few points. Number one goes to Mr. Nema in the studio there. To know who gives land title to the people who are staying within the wetland area. Because when you go to wetland, you'll find all kind of human beings are surviving there. You'll find this Mr. Investor. For them, since they have resources financially, they will set a good structure deep inside the swamp there. And if you go these towns around, you move around, you'll find plywoods. Their factories are set up. You go to Nachirebe, are set up inside the wetland. Then you'll find a small struggling citizen who had put up almost close, part of it at the wetland, part of it this side at the in between. This one, Lubiji's example. Buteega, because I'm at Buteega. So many infrastructure, so many houses are being constructed. But and also I ask myself, when it comes to a real season for rain, water have to match all those houses up to the ring beam level. And even I wonder how people survive here. If
Okay,
really
sir.
NEMA, we have you and your office is functioning. But and before I finish, Amon, my request, let the law to be respected, and let the law should not be selective to some group of people. They demolish their houses, and the others they remain there stable, which is bringing us biasness.
Thank you, sir.
Government. Thank you.
UBC Ground Zero on 5 radio stations that cover this program. Thank you. You're live on UBC radios. Hello. You can call us again on 776-511-426 and share your comments or your live UBC Ground.
Thank you for the program. Greeting to all the panel and everyone inside the radio and the listeners across the country. My question number one is, are you getting me clear?
Yes, you are.
I'm called Richard. My question number one, like here in Kampala, according to the regulation of the construction, city council, they are supposed to know who's building where and what type of structures and where completely. Then too, Lema started a long time ago. If I may ask this question, like I asked 1 week ago in some radio station, after the Museveni speech, like destroying buildings in a wetland. And most of this building was done in 40 years, 30 years when Museveni was on power. Actually, when you follow the road going to West Nile, to northern Uganda, like that area of Kawempe, Matuga, you go to Entebbe, you go everywhere, Big Munyonyo was built every corner. Where were these people? This building was done in space, or they were in space, they were not seen. And this construction was constructed at night in the wetland. When you move all over corner Kampala, you find factories have been reinstated in a wetland. What are they going to do? Is this thing not going to be political, that this one is not supporting the government? Let us go and destroy the building. And recently I heard that some houses were marked to be destroyed. And yet, in most of the area, the same buildings are there in a wetland. Two, the case of the issue of the case backlogging.
Thank you, sir.
Always the court is adjourned. You find the court is adjourned. There is no court that can be completed in a day, even in a month, in a year, like the issue of the land. Why is always the court is adjourned? The magistrate, the judiciary system cannot finalize the case. Some cases even simple, started from home with the elder.
Thank you. Time is not on our side, sir. One last. You're live on UBC radios.
Yes, hello, gentlemen. How are you?
I'm okay. Your name and where you're calling from?
Now, I'm come from Chitukutu. I'm called Omala Stephen.
Okay.
One point I'm having here. What I've seen now in Uganda here, we are the women of the money. Because first of all, you can find a big building in the wetland. If they come to arrest that person that is concerned in that building, they will give them money and they run away. But you as a poor man, if they find you in the wetland, they will chase you because they have nothing to give them. So, number one, what we have now in Uganda here, we are the women of the money. Even that man who is in charge of the environment, working with the NEMA, you should know that he is a woman of the money. That's my last question.
Thank you, sir. Right, time is not on our side. How I wish we have a lot of time to share all these ideas, but I have to go back to the studios for my guests to be able to address all these concerns. Many people point out to one concern: where is NEMA when people are constructing all these buildings? Someone pointed out in Lubiji, people who have been there for 15 years, but now you remember to restore the swamp. Even when people have bought lands, they have land titles. Who issues these land titles, even when they know this is a wetland? But I had also made a point that we shall start with the Jubilee who had a concern, then I will get Commissioner Dr. Oyetre, and then Dr. Jibril there.
Actually, you see, Amon, it is Lubija I was talking about, where residents were evicted and then a fuel station was left there. Yet it actually occupies the biggest space in that very wetland. Today, if you used that route, going towards the other lower part of Nansana, heading towards Kawempe, and used that route, if it rains now as we are here in the studios, and you say, okay, let me use that route to go to Kawempe, it is impassable. But you evicted the people, but you left there a fuel station. So I don't know whether the fuel station is not dangerous to the ecosystem or to the environment or to the wetland, but the residents of that place were to the environment to a level that you could not give them even time to shift from that place to any other place. So I don't know, maybe the commissioner needs to tell us, the fuel station which is there, was it given some ample time to reorganize and shift to another place, or for it is okay that they will stay there when the common man has gone? You see, Amon, the commissioner read so many articles. He read about, is it Article 39, and read Article 237. I don't know if he read that one, but 237 is a very important article. Which article talks about protecting land and forests for the interest of the public. So this is where we must ask ourselves the biggest question. So which public is this they are protecting the land or forest for, yet an investor or a tycoon is more important than the people? The other question, actually the communication I wanted to give, information I wanted to give the commissioner as he was addressing the other time, is about the enclaves. You see, these enclaves are, you cannot disassociate yourself from them. These are about 200,000 citizens or people living in those enclaves. About 11 have been formalized. 11 villages have been formalized in Mabira Forest. And those 11 villages, 2 of them are being put into into towns.
Town councils?
Town councils. 2 of them. So you really need to understand that these things are not happening by mistake. they are organized in a way that for you who will be seated here, you can talk to the listeners, but on ground there is a reality. There is a reality taking place. So, Mr. Amon, we need to be factual to ourselves. That's why I said I sympathize with the commissioner, because for him, he will sit here and talk and give good impressions, but
Mr. Jabili, that NAMA has now started to implement on those laws that you talked about. We have seen some residents vacate Victoria
I've given you an
wetlands.
example.
We have seen the refugee you commented. It was not until NEMA acted that people had to wake up and realize that people were staying in those wetlands.
That today we have people who have been staying there for more than 15 years. They were evicted in one night, not even given an ample time or opportunity to shift their property.
But NEMA said they had given them some notices before they acted.
Notice by verbal. We've not seen written notices. Because if you're coming to me and this is my property, you have to tell me that this property is in the wrong place. Please shift or remove it within 1 or 2 weeks. It must be official.
Maybe Commissioner would also address that, but most times when people are vacating, NEMA is vacating, they always come before they put those marks. NEMA, and they put some X and those markings to allow inform the people that they will be taken if you don't vacate early.
That is what is supposed to be done. But the question is, have they done them to these places they have been evicting people from? That should be the question. Because I'm telling you, there is a fuel station, a big one. Actually, it is the headquarters of Starbucks at Rubiji. That is where they put their headquarters. And it is as big as UBC as it is here. As you see UBC, that is how big Starbucks has occupied the wetland at Rubiji. So, but for them, they were left there. Not even the gate was tampered with. But human beings who are there, I think over about 2,000 citizens were affected, and the property was broken.
Thank you, sir.
Without, so this issue of enclaves, if you have 11 villages and 2 of them being elevated, so this is coming even from the local government, because nothing happens with elevation of residential areas without the local government system having knowledge about them. And who declares a village? It is still the local government. Who declares a township? It's a local government. A sub-county, it's a local government. So how do they get declared, yet they are living in a forest reserve?
Thank you, sir. I'll get back to you. Commissioner, just in a minute, Trey and also Jibril. Just 1 minute, we are in the second part of the show, and this is always the rush hour.
You are giving me 1 minute?
If you can utilize it.
Come back for me to try to respond to.
Okay, I'll give you 2, sir.
Well, you are rushing me really. You, my colleague, you seem to have given me more time. Now,
you realize in the first part you only spoke once.
So the issue of the villages 11, we shall verify that, but I wouldn't yet at this point confirm that. Those 11 villages in Mabira Forest, we will need to verify that. Now, to issuing or carrying out the enforcement that you see happening and structures coming down, really we need to be communicating properly to the public. One thing we do is to create awareness for people to live. Second is to issue what we call restoration orders. Section 130 of the Environment Act is very clear on that. That we give them 21 days. If they have not, within that, then enforcement comes in. Those people have those letters. But what they do, they don't show it to you. They tell you that NEMA has never been here, to attract all that confusion that kind of communication generates. But they have it. So when enforcement is happening, because it's a matter of court as well, when we are taken to court and you cannot prove that you issue restoration orders, how do you sustain your case? So we do, but Ugandans know how to confuse people in communication. Now, the other one that came up was about selective enforcement. We are leaving some people out. Where are we? When did these people are what? Carrying out all these legalities. Let me just say this, and I said it earlier, that for us to move forward with making this environment we live in a better place, let each and every citizen do their part. There are many people, as I speak, who have built in road reserves. Are you going to tell me that the question is, where was Minister of Works when people are building on a road reserve? But you as a Ugandan, why do you go and put your structure on a road reserve when you know you should not do that? Now when they come to demolish, that should become again a question of you are not sensitive to the people. So let's tell Ugandans that it is very clear they are part of the problem that we are having now, and they need to have a mindset change for us to have a better environment to live in. The benefit of restoring the environment is not, as I said earlier, comes to individuals, comes to government, comes to society, comes to the economy. You are talking of an economy that is driven largely by hydropower, power from water. Supposing we destroy this ecosystem and there's no water flowing through, do you know the consequence of that? Those turbines will stop, and you have no power. So this is a matter of our own well-being, a matter of national development, that we should have these ecosystems well protected. The issue of the fuel, the one petrol station at Starbucks at Lubiji, that matter, my colleague, is being followed up, and I can discuss with you a little bit more, not on air here, but it is being followed up. It was a case where we needed to do a little bit more into making sure that we do not necessarily land ourselves into where they say, these people don't know what they're doing. But we are investigating that thing, and I will discuss with you of how we are handling it. Now, another thing which has come, and finally I think I'll end there. I want us to know, Amon, the consequence of environmental degradation is for every one of us to pay for it. If the temperatures of this country increase beyond a certain level, the heat waves that we are now seeing in Europe, people are dying. People are trying even to put fountains on streets for people to get some element of cooling off. Are we going to do that here? We can't. Diseases are going to increase, disease outbreak. Some of the diseases or the virus and the vectors might even become resistant to the medicine we have now. You will be taking medicine, but the other organism has also metamorphosed into something else because of these changes in the environment. Poverty. Where there's no rain, now people depend on rain. People are going to be so poor because they can no longer produce anything to survive. So when we are protecting the environment, let's look at the bigger picture. Today, none of you can pollinate your crops. If you are going to destroy those forests and the wetlands and the bees and the birds and all those pollinators disappear, you will see low agricultural productivity. None of us has capacity to be pollinators of these crops we plant. Thank you.
Council Hetre. Okay, I will come to Council there, Jibril. According to what you have heard from some of the concerns coming from our listeners there, what is your take on them in addressing their concerns?
Well, one of the persons said Uganda signs many global commitments on environmental protection, but with no results. I want to clarify that results are there. For example, the World Bank, through the IFPA CD project, has offered about $148 million. This project is being managed by the Ministry of Water and Environment, together with its units like UA and the former NFA. Additionally, through the Office of Prime Minister, the European Union, through the European Fund, we received about 48 million euros specifically for environmental conservation and forestry operations, forestry development and tree growing activities. Additionally, when you read through the National Climate Change Act 2025, and which gives regulations on carbon markets, Uganda is already into bilateral agreements or deals with the potential partners like Singapore, Switzerland, and UAE, all to deal with us as far as trade is concerned. Another listener said, we plant billions of trees, but fewer survives. It is very true that people have been planting trees. However, we are now changing the mode of operation into growing. You plant, you grow a tree as you monitor it to progress into a forest. That is now the methodology we are using, and that's why we are registering success as far as forestry cover is concerned. Another person said, how can we involve communities yet they base on firewood and charcoal? It is true, but under the collaborative forestry management, we teach people how to coexist with the forests. There are some trees like branches which can be pruned and used as firewood. In a forest, there are already drying trees which are already available to be used as firewood because of age, you get. So you cannot rule it out. But as far as the charcoal is concerned, this is detrimental, and we are coming up with alternatives. How best can have these people benefit from the forests? We have what we call apiculture, that is the beekeeping. And people are being involved in keeping bees to generate honey in areas of Kisoro, in areas around. I remember we have a project at Kasioha Chitomi, that is in Lubirizi, and we have given out over 200 bees to the villages around that forest for them to benefit. Additionally, these people, we can do what we call ecotourism. This can be done in forest reserves where people need knowledge to learn and study unique tree species like the Prunus africana. This is a tree which is known as, it is medicinal, it has anti-cancer cells as far as the market is concerned. Additionally, we have trees like Wabuja ugandensis. This is a tree which was used by Professor Ogwa in the times of COVID-19 to make the Covidex. So all of these are like initiatives or innovations that people can participate in to coexist with the forests directly. Thank you very much.
All right, Oyetre.
Amon, I just briefly, there is one of the callers who raised a concern and said, who issues land titles in the wetlands? You know, it's a very, very fundamental question, because when the Lubigi issue happened, we raised, Lansana is where I hail from. That came up, because what we had is we have people who are settled on what they call Kabaka's land, and the Buganda Land Board had issued licenses, rather leases, to several of them. And then we have those who are living on Kabaka's land, which is a Chibanja. They don't have leases, they have no Chapa Mungalo, but they are recognized as lawful tenants of the Kabaka in those areas. People have businesses there, and there is houses are there, and they are collecting, they are paying rent or income tax, they are paying property rate to government. So in a way, government is benefiting from them, but again turning to break their structure that they are unlawfully there. So I think it is an issue of the need for a concerted effort of government and institutions in land management. Because if, for example, you look at the Commissioner Land Registration that issues titles, if commissioners should be required to consult with some of the sister institutions before titles are issued, because if you do not consult, for example, with the NEMA, you don't consult with the NFA, you'll have a situation where a title may be issued in an area which ideally should not have been issued. You know, in certain, for me as an advocate in standard land transactions, once I see a client is purchasing a property, for example, and it seems to be like a riverbank or it's a wetland, there is a procedure you can write to the ministry. It used to be under NEMA, but they moved it, I think, to Ministry of Water. You can write a search and you find out what is the ecological status. And usually they have inspectors. They will send an inspector. The inspector will give you a report. They will go take measurements, see the water levels, and tell you that this is classified technically or legally as a wetland, and you cannot buy it. Or they say you can buy it, but the range of activities you can do, land uses you can do on such a piece of land are A, B, C, D. You cannot grow crops. You cannot do this. You know, they will advise on the things you can do on a particular piece of land or not. But I think there should be a joint or a concerted effort, a consultative effort of various government institutions in land management before titles are issued. Because we have actually truly have had many such instances where titles are issued in wetlands, in forest reserves, in national parks even. But the positive thing about is that subsequently these titles, when a discovery is made that they were actually irregularly issued in wetlands, usually they are cancelled. Last year we saw a publication by the Ministry of Lands. I remember under the current Attorney General, the Honorable Sam Mayanja, when he was State Minister for Lands, he proceeded to cancel several of these land titles which were in forest reserves and in wetlands. So there needs to be a concerted effort, and it's a very key issue. Now, there is another caller who raised the issue of charcoal. How do you involve the committee when the majority of us are using charcoal in our homesteads? Amon, again, you know, this brings in light when in 2002, when the president addressed the convention of the ministers of Africa on this subject, he put it to them that the question of environment.
And after that, sir, you'll give us your parting thoughts. Now that time will not be on our side.
Oh, thank you. Just quickly. It must be addressed together with the other greater issues of poverty and education. You cannot handle environment independent of the subject of poverty, because people must be able to afford alternative energy, renewable sources like electricity, like solar, for example, is a very big potential. But once the funds are not there, once the homesteads are poor, they will revert to the cheapest energy source. So we must address it as a whole, empower our homestead such that once the income levels increase, they can move to other forms of energy.
So there, gentlemen, time is not on our side. Our time is fast spent, and I wish we continue with this kind of conversation, but we need also to provide time for other programs to run. I would request for your way forward, and also what do you suggest for the next generations, for the future of this country, and also you'll give me your parting shots. Let's start with you, Ojabile, Oyetri, Dr. Jibril, and Commissioner will sum it all.
You see, amongst the five biggest problems of this world, climate is one of them. So meaning that if we then we are talking about five biggest problems of this affecting this world, and if it's among them, then we must also have solutions that must be in line with managing one of the biggest problems in the world. So as a country called Uganda, I had already earlier on told you that human resource is one of the most important things that we must focus on. We cannot rely on the environment without dealing with the human resource. We must put it as one of the most important lessons that must be taught to our kids in schools, especially from. You see, in Japan, before you go to higher levels of learning, They don't do exams. They don't have report cards for is it what? They teach them society. They teach them how to take care of and respect elderly people. They take them to the roads. How do you cross? When you find dirt somewhere, you must make sure the environment is clean. When you are in school, you must make sure you're smart. How do you greet? How do you talk to older people? These are basics they teach people, the Japanese kids, to understand before they grow up into reasonable individuals. So by the time you become a reasonable person, now they begin examining you. Did you really understand what they told you earlier? They take you to a homestead and they see, did this person learn even how to greet? How do you talk to an adult? These are things, these are basics. So for us as Ugandans, what is that we are teaching our kids? Do we keep them just with the exams of irrelevant things? This is one of the most important items we need to be teaching our children. Pick rubbish, put it in a dustbin. Please make sure there is no stagnant water around our compound. Okay? Let us not put polythene bags everywhere because it kills the soil. So these are things. What kind of agricultural products should we plant? Okay? These are things we should really learn. These are things we should learn. We should help our children to understand, so that by the time they become reasonable adults, they truly resonate with the word called reason, not growing by body, but in actual sense when the spirit is otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir. Oyetre, sir.
Amon, just very briefly, I think my parting shot is that we should take it that the landmass of countries is as though you would have two gardens neighboring each other. The question of environment is not one where one country can by itself tailor a solution. Sorry, it's running a bit back. So it's not a situation where one country can tailor for itself a solution. You need to have countries work together towards it. And particularly for the case of Africa, I think it is agreed that the developed countries that are highly industrialized, I think, are doing more harm to the environment than this other southern hemisphere. I think when you look at the level of carbon emissions by those developed, very highly industrialized countries, they are emitting more than we do. And the devastating effects of damage to our environment are felt more here. Whereas they are doing more harm, we are paying the price more than them. So I think that as a parting shot for me, this part of the bloc of the world, Africa particularly, must put a joint front to save its environment. We must be able to put our foot to these developed countries and tell them that, look, you want us to make commitments to efforts to avert the devastating effects, but there is so little we can do. First of all, financially we are incapacitated. They have the money more than us. They have to really help us in our efforts, because many of the technologies that we have today that are supposed to help avert some of these effects are very, very costly. And it is only when we are aided, when we are helped, that we can be able to contribute meaningfully to averting some of the effects. So I think Africa must put a united front and demand that the developed countries that are causing the harm help us. And we're not even saying they should give us the money. It's not the money we're crying for. They can help us in other ways. They can enable our economies to grow. For example, opening their markets to trade. Opening the markets to trade, cut down the subsidies, remove the tariffs, remove the import quotas, so that we're able to access the markets. And once we're able to access the markets, we can empower our communities and move them to alternative sources of income, and even help our industrialists and factory owners and to see how they can better cut out the activities with as less effect on the environment as they can possibly do. Thanks so dearly.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Jibril.
Thank you very much. As far as the climate education is concerned, with this new curriculum, it is true that climate education is being promoted. For example, the questions of last year's A-level biology, paper 2, they were very technical and ecological based. They had a question with a scenario of landslides in Oregon region, and it clearly brought in a mindset of a child or of a student to think critically, to know how best can people interact or coexist with the environment. So indeed, the Ministry of Education, they are trying to come up with climate education. However, it should be empowered and promoted further. Still, you talked about funding from the European countries who are largest emitters. It is true that Ugandans, we are almost like we are the least emitters and we are the absorbers of these European emissions, which is true. But negotiations which have participated in, like the Paris Agreement, Article 6 of this agreement, bids and encourages all these Europeans to actively deal with the least emitters, to support them into promoting decarbonization pathways. And these are being done, and Uganda, we are beneficiaries into these projects of fundings. With this, I encourage the communities to actively join all initiatives. We have the National Tree Planting Day that is coming up. It's a tree planting day. If it is the rainy season, you plant, you monitor. Unlike any other country, that Uganda, we are blessed. You plant today, you monitor, in the next months, rain comes in. I have been to countries like Mauritania, where it is totally dry. People are using irrigation to grow beans. But here in Uganda, based on the little waters we have, our soils are so fertile, we can actively engage ourselves into these activities. You talked about too that whenever a person dies, instead of flowers, we plant a tree. This is very, very good. How is it if we say we plant the age of that very person that have deceased? If we are celebrating the birthdays, can we say instead of cutting cakes, we plant as many trees, we grow them as part of our birthdays? So all of these are initiatives which can attract the community, encourage them to actively participate in all initiatives towards environmental protection. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much to Dr. Jibril. Commissioner Hogwalsa.
Okay, thank you. Just before I give my parting shot, one, NEMA does not give titles in wetlands. So that is not what we do, and that's why we are struggling with protecting and conserving wetlands. That is done by other government agencies. But as has been said, we need to really collaborate so that we don't find ourselves having to have those firefightings. And for the GCF, I mean the international agreements, yes, I must tell you that there's quite a number of benefits financially that has come to Uganda because of that. There is the Global Environment Facility since its establishment in 1993. Not less than close to $60 million has come into the country. You have also the Green Climate Fund, about $40 million and others, plus other bilaterals that we are beneficial. So it runs in hundreds of millions of dollars for conservation. Now, in my parting shot, Amon, what I would like us all to do is to hand over an environment that is clean, healthy, productive for the next generation. If for us didn't do that, today we wouldn't be living here. So we have that duty. Even whatever other investment you are putting on earth here, whether it is buildings, it is skyscrapers, those will come to nothing if the environment is not functioning. Nobody will live here. So let's live in harmony with the nature. Let's love the environment, because that is our life. We shouldn't joke about something that sustains us. We love the environment, we protect it, we conserve it, we'll enjoy the services that comes from there. Let's stop looking at selective enforcement, this is that, the other one. we shouldn't politicize environment conservation because the consequences are not going to be good for us. So let us do our part as the law requires. Let's not wait for NEMA to force you to do the right thing or lead agency. Just do the right thing. And this place will be a good place for us to live in. Thank you very much.
Makes us end the conversation, and I want to thank you, gentlemen, for all the calls that you've made. And I really understand where you're coming from, that environment is the only resource that we all depend on as long as we are still on the planet Earth. This reminds me of the comment from Margaret Mead that that we won't have a society if we destroy the environment. So those of you who are into getting the environment, just to know that you're destroying your own. And also what Philip says, that the earth is not dying, it is being killed, and those who are killing it have names and addresses. So for those institutions that are giving license to people to settle in the wetlands, just to know that you are part of the cause and you're destroying the earth and you're killing it by yourself. So I understand you investors really need free land, you need to invest, you need to make money, but of what use will that money be for you? This reminds me of the Cree proverb that when the last tree is cut, the last fish is caught, and the last river is polluted, we will realize we cannot eat money. So of what cause will you invest that money and you miss enjoying it? That brings us to the end of our conversation and discussion on UBC Ground Zero on 5 radio stations that cover this program. Thank you, Oyetre Samuel. I understand that you are into this protection of the environment and also climate change, and also a member of PLOU that I couldn't fail to mention. And I also thank you on FDC leader Ojobili Augustine for making time every Saturday to come through and educate the people of Uganda on this forum. And most importantly, our guest that joined us this morning, and Dr. Jibril Owomugisha, for your efforts in protecting the environment and climate change cause. You are very, very, very important when it comes to this campaign. Thank you for representing Uganda and raising the flag in the other countries and forums that you always present. Thank you, Commissioner Ogwal, for making time to come through and educate the people of Uganda, coming from NEMA and addressing all these concerns from Uganda. We cannot take that for granted, and wish you all the best in this cause to protect the environment. Let people stone you, but when you're doing the right thing for the generations to come. Ampaire Amon Butega is my name. Thank you, dear listener, for those who have been on UBC Radio, UBC Butebo, UBC Magic 100, UBC Western Nile, and also Voice of Bonvijo, and those who have been online on YouTube. You can always tune to UBC radios anytime, and you follow these conversations there. And this program is repeated every Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. on UBC Radio, that is 98.0 FM, and also same time on Monday on Voice of Bonvijo. Until next time, same station, same program. For God and my country, Ampaire Amon Butega. Allow me to sign out.
Was Ground Zero Season 2, a production of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, UBC, inspiring Uganda. It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody should. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customer tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
This is UBC Radio, the home of inspiration.
UBC Radio, we broadcast in English, Kiswahili, and Luo, loud and clear, border to border.